to Jazz Cats. I'm your girl, Dawn Elizabeth. You may want to know why I'm using my middle name. Just kind of got tired of Dawn. So I said, let me use Dawn Elizabeth. And every time I say that, it reminds me of my neighbor, Mrs. Cook, that I grew up with down the street. Every time she would call my name, Dawn Elizabeth, I'm like shaking because I'm thinking I'm in trouble. But it's all good. I'm glad hopefully everybody's doing well. It's Thursday. I've been away from the mic for a little over a month, but it feels good to be back. And hope if you're tuning in, you're going to be in for a treat because I've got one of my musical babies in studio. I know when I have my young people in here, they hate when I call them babies, but they're just so sweet. I have the amazing Lance Denzel Gully in studio with me.
Hey,
Lance,
everybody.
how are you?
I'm great. It's great to be here.
Actually, yes.
Really
And
nice.
my first question is, where have you been? You kind of disappeared off
Yeah.
the face of the
Yeah.
earth. So where have you been? How are things? What's going on?
Well, 2018, I think it was, I got into Interlochen Arts Academy.
Okay.
And so I went there my senior year of high school. And so, we did the whole crowdfunding thing, and it was successful. And I just want to take a moment and thank everybody who supported me, because it couldn't have been done. You helped, and so thank you very much. And so I went there, stayed for a year, and then I got into Oberlin Conservatory. And first semester of Oberlin, I was enrolled for jazz bass.
Okay.
And then, I started having some spiritual challenges and some mental challenges. And so I made it my goal to kind of get to the root of it and see what was going on. And so after some reflection and self-discovery, I realized that there was more to my artistry.
Okay.
And I, of course, it was obvious for me that it was singing because ever since I was younger, I was singing. I was in the church choir, I was in my school's choir, I was in the Detroit Children's Choir. But growing up in the church, everybody can sing.
Yes.
So you don't think you're anything special because you can sing.
Exactly. Yes. Especially blending voices.
Right,
With
right.
everybody.
Yeah.
Even if you can't really sing, you can sing in
Right.
that format.
And so I was like, I always wanted to be a musician and be a part of the arts. And since I was saying, everybody in the church can sing, what I did notice is that not everybody can play an instrument. So I thought a more practical way to go about a music career would be to play an instrument.
Play an instrument.
And so I started off playing violin, and then that progressed into switching to jazz and playing bass. But anyway, after those challenges my freshman year, I started secondary voice lessons while taking primary bass lessons. And then eventually the secondary voice lessons led to switching my major to jazz voice under LaTanya Hall.
Wow. Okay.
And so that's what I've been doing, just figuring things out.
Wonderful.
And so now I'm singing a lot more, and I'm a lot happier to be doing that.
Awesome.
And I'm still playing bass, but on my originals, and when I want to play bass. Because I think in order to be in this business and to be a professional, you have to do a lot of things that you maybe don't want to do with your gifts. And I just realized that bass was not necessarily my gift, I enjoyed playing it, but I was doing a lot of stuff that I didn't want to do, and I feel like when you're using your gift and you're doing things that you don't want to do, it's a little bit easier because you're using your gift.
So why do you feel that you were doing things you didn't necessarily want to do?
Detroit is a bass city, so when you start playing bass here, there's a community that surrounds you and really supports you and uplifts you. And I had great teachers, Ralph Armstrong, Lamont Johnson, Marion Hayden, all these beautiful people and great players supporting me. And so I ended up getting pretty good, and people were like, you have something here, you can be the next great one. And so that led to a lot of opportunities and me doing a lot of things that I felt like I had to do,
Now, was that kind of part of the self-discovery that you kind of step back and kind of reevaluated kind of where where your life was going?
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I kind of realized what other people had projected onto me in my future, in my career, and then I had to, sit back and say, what is it that Lance wants to do, and what does God want Lance to do?
Okay.
And I feel like I found that now. So I'm back, Yeah.
Yay, happy to hear that. Kind of looking at your, bio, I glanced at it. I don't like study, the bio a whole lot. When I saw that vocalist, I'm like, I don't remember him singing.
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute, when did this happen?
Yeah.
So I'm happy to hear, with the self-discovery that you found out, a lot of things about yourself. And, with me, I've done that as well, self-discovery several years ago. I had joined church, got baptized, and a couple of my close friends, when I told them I was getting baptized, one of my girlfriends I've known forever, I used to work with her at the IRS, and she's like, Lord, I gotta see this. She said, that poor water gonna turn black. I'm like, oh God. So people know me, I'm crazy, I'm out there. But it kind of, since that happened, it's like, whew, things are a lot more calm, and I can kind of see clearly now. And so I love, when you talked about, that spiritual journey, and everything, and how important, God is, in your life. And how do you, I guess, kind of use your spirituality in the music business? Because those of us in the business, I'm not a musician, kind of on the business side of music, I've seen so many things, in the music business. So how do you kind of stay, on that quote unquote right path, as a musician?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I was saying, just in terms of doing something that you don't necessarily feel spiritually connected to, and how hard that is. And so, when I was playing bass, and I didn't necessarily feel spiritually connected to the instrument, things were just very hard, and I actually considered just giving up on music because I didn't feel spiritually connected to it. But with voice, I do feel a very deep spiritual connection and, alignment with the higher source. And so I feel like once you set a good spiritual foundation and you know what your values are, you know why you're here on this earth, navigating the business is a lot easier because you have a lot more focus and a better idea of who you are, why you're here, and where you're going. And no matter what happens in this industry, you're still one with Source.
Yes, absolutely.
And you're still one with your gifts, and nobody can take your gifts away from you.
Absolutely.
And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Yes.
I'm here to bring light and joy and to, sonically, collectively heal.
Beautiful. I love it. I'm happy to see that you're back.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was 1 minute I see Lance, the next minute, okay, I knew school was there, and then I'm thinking, okay, that should be kind of wrapping up or over. Still no Lance. I'm like, where did he go? And I'm like, so then when I saw you kind of back on social media, I'm like, yay, not only are you a super talented musician, but you're just a extremely, beautiful and intelligent young man.
Thank you.
And and like I adopt all of the younger ones as my babies. I don't have children of my own, so so I have so many babies now, and it's like, phew. I'm like, I love it, because mostly everybody calls me auntie, which is cool. So like I said, when I saw that you were back, I'm like, okay, let's see what he's up to, and checking out your bio and everything. Very impressive. Very impressive. And then I'm like, okay, I gotta hear him sing. I guess this is driving me crazy. So what's coming up for you?
September 25th in Highland Park, Michigan, at Mama Shoes Avalon Village in the Jacoby Rock Park section. I'm having my second showcase of the summer, and second vocal debut, and really, a homecoming show, like the official one. And so, it's been work every day, contacting people, getting vendors together, organizing sound and production, getting the band together, the set list. It's been a lot of work with my manager, Shauna Kidd. And shout out to Shauna Kidd. I mean, because she gets me through everything.
Good.
She keeps my head in the game. And so very grateful for her. But September 25th, tickets are $20. It's from 6 to 10 p.m. And you can get your tickets at bit.ly/soundsforthesoul. And that's the number 4. So bit.ly/soundsforthesoul. And please come out. Please come support. You know, I'm putting a lot of work into it. And I'm very excited to just share with the world, you know, what I've been working on.
So with putting an event like that together, how do you find the musicians to play with you? I mean, I know people are kind of everywhere, you know, but how do you selectively pick, you know, who you're going to have play with you? You know, are they kind of in alignment with you, kind of on the spiritual level, you know, things of that nature? Is that kind of I guess a prerequisite for someone to play or perform with you? Well,
yeah, I'm very grateful to have had the bass experience that I had in Detroit. And so I got to meet a lot of musicians and work with a lot of different musicians. And so I know what people sound like, what their playing styles are. And so I just, you know, kind of go from the top of my head, whoever comes to me, and some of my favorite musicians. And I've been very grateful to have a lot of my favorite musicians in the band. And I think knowing the person and knowing their playing style is, you know, that's very important for me, so I can know what they bring to the band and to the sound. And so Tariq Gardner is on drums, and I just love the way he plays and what he brings to the sound as a whole. And he's very spiritually aligned. And Luke Sittard on guitar, I've been playing with him since I've been playing in Detroit. And then Betty Alexandria Pride, we've only played together a few times. Actually, not even a few, maybe once or twice prior to the work we've done this summer. But, you know, she is very spiritually in touch with herself and higher source. And she's an amazing piano player and singer.
Yes, she is. I've had the pleasure of seeing her perform at Baker's many times. And, you know, I know when she had come back, she had just kind of come back from a horrible accident. And thank God she's here.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, first time I saw her, you know, I'm like, okay. So then I'm listening. I'm like, oh, because I was coming like on a weekly basis, you know, to check her out. So she's dynamic.
Yes. And she really listens, and she's fabulous. And then Kaylin, I've actually never worked with him before. But Tariq and him, they work closely.
Because I think Gaylen has started using Kaylin as well. You know, because I met him just recently, maybe 3 weeks or so ago. And everything. And I'm like, all right, so she put together, you know, a nice ensemble and everything. So, and I'm like, okay, like these people are kind of coming out of the woodworks, you know. I mean, they've been around, but I just didn't know anything about them. So, awesome. Okay, everybody, you heard that. September 25th.
September 25th.
Get those tickets. And is that an outdoor performance?
Yes, it's outdoor.
Okay, outdoor performance. Okay, grab your jacket and your blanket. It might be a little chilly. It could be 90 degrees. Who knows?
And it's going to be closer into the evening, so dress appropriately.
So
because we want you to stay for both sets. Because we got a lot of power packed into both.
Wonderful. Now, with that performance, will people be able to kind of bring their instrument and jam, or is it just kind of your show, come and sit and enjoy?
It's a more of sit and enjoy thing. Okay,
because I know some people will, you know, bring their instrument and want to, you know, kind of come and do a song or two. So.
Yeah, I mean, any horn players for sure, you know.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Take a solo on a tune.
Okay, very good. Good to hear that. Everybody, you are watching Jazz Cats live on Wjzz Cool TV, streaming. We're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. If you missed this one, you can always find it after 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock on YouTube. So please share, like, comment, and if you're checking in, please pop some comments up for me. If you're just tuning in, I am hanging out in studio. He's going to kill me. With one of my musical babies, Lance Gully. So glad to see you. So, wow, because it's just like tons of questions I have. So, I guess, when did you discover you could sing? I mean, I know you were in the choir and things of that nature, but when did you realize that you had a voice?
you know, I think it was second or third grade, and the school was doing a talent show, a Black History Month talent show. And I remember I was sitting in class one day, I heard about it, and they were like, auditions will be held after school in this room. And I was like, you know what? I am going to sing Wade in the Water. And I am just gonna do it, and so that's what I did.
Can we
I
get a little bit of that, or?
Yeah, in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
No pressure.
And so I, sang that, and it was well received. And for the audition, and then the talent show came up, and people, still actually talk about it to this day. And so that's how I realized, I can sing and people enjoy it,
Nice.
and so that's the story.
Wow.
And
Okay.
people would go up to my mom like, that boy can sing. And the principal was like little Luther Vandross. And so it was just kind of a no-brainer to, keep doing it. But like I said, after I got involved in the church and whatnot, and singing in the choir, I was like, well, everybody can do this. And I actually want to be a professional musician. And for some reason, when considering being a professional musician, a singer is usually one of the last things people think about to pursue.
Right, exactly.
Because it's so mainstream and you have so many singers.
Yes. There are a lot of singers, but some of them cannot sing.
That's very true.
If it weren't for the studio to get them
That's what I miss.
Yeah.
Like true singing.
Yeah, as do I. I'm a lover of pretty much all genres of music, but there are times when you'll see somebody live and it's like, oh, and they give you a recording contract. It's like, well, maybe I can try.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's one thing, just from doing my research and studying the people I really look up to, at one point, the industry took a turn towards really focusing on image and how marketable somebody is.
Very much so. Yes.
And it became a lot about the video and your music video, and basically how the music execs can control you and your talent. They didn't want you as an artist; they wanted your talent, so they could market you and put you in a box and have you do.
You're a money machine.
Yep, yep. And so I feel like once the music industry took that turn, of course, the quality of music took a turn. And it's one of my goals to really bring that old school quality back to music.
Beautiful.
The original classic sound. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. And again, kind of talked about how funny the music business is. What advice would you give, some up and coming artists getting into the music business, wanting to be a professional musician? Because I know some parents, you're not gonna make a living, being a professional musician, so you better get you a 9 to 5, work 30 years, get the Timex watch, get your pension, so how do you kind of maybe mentor or talk to some younger musicians that may be coming up behind you?
Well, growing up, I also had it in my ear. Get a 9 to 5, go to school for accounting, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I always knew that music was it. So if it resonates with you, and it's for you, nobody can come against that and change that. And so my advice is to always just stick with it and do you. And that's what I've done, And I, sometimes it takes being strong enough to say no to your parents, and just...
Yeah, something like that. How do you say no to your parents and still and survive? After something like that.
Well, my mom wanted me to go to school for accounting or something. She just thought going to school for music. That's just something she doesn't really understand.
Yes.
And I just remember when I was applying to schools, I just did my thing. I just did what I knew I had to do. And so it's just all about staying true to yourself.
Absolutely.
And it's hard when you have all these people around you trying to project different things onto you and tell you to do different things, and when they try to tell you what's best. But I've always believed that there are certain people who are placed in your life to test your strength,
Yes.
and to test your trust, and to test your knowing and your intelligence.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that just goes back to what I'm saying: stay true to yourself, and your gut, and your spirit. I've always been, I was just thinking about this earlier today. I've always been spiritually aligned, even before I had my spiritually enlightenment. Voices were always speaking to me. I always heard things, and so I'm grateful for that.
Beautiful. They do talk, and you do have to listen.
You got to listen.
You have to get still, and just shut the world off. And
yeah, there's a lot of noise.
Yeah, it's way too much noise. Because me being in the business, I had no clue about the music business, and because I had started an event planning business almost 11 years now, and one of my clients, they wanted some live music, so I got straight ahead. I'd seen them around, didn't know anybody in the band, and end of the evening, of course the drummer was always the last one to leave with the event planner. So Galen and I were talking, and she was like, have you ever thought about managing artists? And I'm like, no, because I had been in human resources for over 20 years, so I've been managing people for 20 years, and from a 9-to-5 standpoint, she and I met, went to lunch, and here I am, and like I said, certain things I've seen in the business makes me kind of scratch my head, be like, why do people want to pursue music, as a business? Because as cutthroat as it is, and unfair in so many areas, because I've spoken to so many artists who have just gotten taken advantage of, from promoters, booking agents, managers, and they've gotten money taken from them, or they've had to spend so much money out of pocket to perform, or the contracts that they enter is very scary. There's one young lady I was talking to, she had entered into a contract, thank God it's over, and this promoter or her manager was going to be taking like 95% of her money. And I'm like, ugh. So how do you steer, your career in the right direction, when you're booking shows, talking to managers, promoters, how do you kind of stay on top of that to not be taken advantage of?
Well, I think at this stage in my career, just turning 20 years old, I have yet to be exposed to that super cutthroat side of the business. And something I've just always gone off of my morals and what I know is right.
Yes.
And also just knowing my worth, and knowing what's fair. But I realize the business isn't always fair.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think it's very important to have mentors around you and older people, and ask them questions and seek advice, and tell them things and run things by them, so you can move forward successfully. And so so that's kind of how I've always done it. If something seemed kind of questionable, I'd take it to a teacher or something.
Yeah, because if it doesn't feel right in your gut,
right,
I tell people all the time, don't second guess it. If it's not feeling comfortable, if that third eye is going kind of crazy, you better listen to it, because there's some evil spirits, in this business. I pride myself on being upfront and honest. If I'm working with an artist, I can't guarantee you that I'm going to get you a gig at the Fox, the Fisher, or anything like that, because I kind of have to follow the same channels, as as everyone else. And my thing is, the artist gets paid first. Period. ... Exclamation point. Because you guys are doing the work. You're not saying that what I'm not doing is work, but you're up there performing under hot lights, and having to help, push and promote your shows. And, so I get, so many, younger, artists, they want to perform, they, want all this money. This one rapper I'm kind of working with out of Atlanta, he just wants to perform. And I'm like, dude, slow down.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation, and he's been rafted or, kicked in the butt by promoters, taking his money. And, he may do a 20-minute set, 30-minute set, and this person's gone. He's not getting paid. I'm like, dude, slow down.
Yeah.
I'm like, learn the business of music. And that's what I've learned, from Ralph Armstrong. Learn the business of music first and foremost.
Yeah.
His thing, finances. Stickler for that. And so I'm listening as much as he fusses at me all the time. I'm listening. He says, you've got some, some great teachers. I guess, so kind of going into that, what have been some of the things that your teachers have shared with you how to be successful in the music business? I know Interlochen, and Oberlin, I'm sure they've drilled some things,
for sure,
into your mind. Or not even those teachers, like your Ralphs and your Marians, Rodneys,
Man, I've learned so many great lessons, and I carry them with me, and they've all kind of formed into just this one force, that is constantly with me and that I'm aligned with. But I'm trying to think. Well, just when I first started studying bass, outside, just studying an instrument, period, outside of Western European classical music, I studied with Lamont Johnson, who is a bassist, and he was the bassist for the 70s funk Hamtramck band Brainstorm. And so working with him, one of the biggest things I learned was how to engage the soul and the spirit in music, and how to stay liberated and stay free. I think that's one of the most important lessons an artist can learn, is how to remain free and stay liberated and not conform and always be you, because that's what people want.
They want that truth.
They want that truth. And so stay true to you, and don't try to do anything just because it's what everybody else is doing, or what's hip, or all this different kind of stuff. And I think that's one of the things that started to get to me about bass, is that there were all these demands to play a certain way, know how to do all these different things, and it was all very heady and mechanical. And that doesn't move me, so that's, now I pick and choose where I play bass, but singing for me, since I'm so engaged with it spiritually and with my soul, nothing is heady, it's all pure music and the truth. And so that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned, is to stay liberated, stay free, and move with your soul and what you hear, because God, all artists, all musical oral artists, and people who produce sound have an ear. So trust that ear, and never let anybody try to tweak your ear either. Because
I've witnessed that, in the studio, and I'm going just to kind of see the process. And with Ralph, when he was doing his last CD, Detroit Rising, and I think it was, I don't know if it was Blue Mashed Potatoes, it may have been that song, and they just kept playing it over and over again, and I'm like, okay, this 10th one sounds like the second one, but again, like you just said, that ear. And so when everything was finished, he's like, after everything was done, I was like, okay, that's good, keep that one. And so when I'm asking him, I'm like, why were you playing it so many? This person was off, this key wasn't right, and this, that, and the other. And but again, I don't have that ear. Certain times I do, but not like that. And that's what creates great music. Just listening, to that ear. And I would imagine that's something that is just in you, or how does one learn how to get an ear for music, or is that possible? Is that something that's just, innately inside of a musician, or are you taught how to listen or how to get that ear?
I I definitely think it's something you have to develop, but I don't think you need anybody else to help you develop it. And so I would hope for people who want to pursue music as a career, or they feel that they are musically inclined, that they are listening to a lot of music, and feeling what resonates with them. And the more you listen to that stuff and figure out what it is about it that makes you love it so much and moves you, that you study that and really, spend time with it. So everybody who knows me knows my favorite singer is Rochelle Farrell.
Yes.
I mean, it's that. I mean,
absolutely.
There's not anybody that has met me and knows my name that does not know I love Rochelle. And so I just remember when I first heard her, it was like a light went off, and my ears opened up, and I was like, this is what my ear has always wanted. I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody referred to ears that haven't necessarily heard what they have needed to hear as sore ears. So I felt like all up until that point, my ears were sore. And then they were finally healed.
Okay.
And
that's
so
a huge compliment.
Yeah. And I mean, but people along the way had also really moved me, like James Brown, Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, Mavis Staples. But it's kind of like Rochelle just encompassed all of that creativity and soul, and herself being so spiritually aligned with the music. It just all came together and exploded for me. And so I definitely think, your ear can be developed, and you can figure that out. You just have to listen to a lot of music and be in touch with your feelings and your emotions.
She does have a beyond dynamic voice.
It's ridiculous.
Her ranges are just, because I took my mom to see her at the soundboard. And one song that she does with Will Downing, my mom was like, oh, is the man going to be here? Is the man going to be here?
She sang it.
And I said, no. I said, she's going to sing that part. How can she sing that? She doesn't sound like him. I'm like, just wait. So maybe 3 songs, 3 or 4 songs into the concert, that's when she started singing. And my mom was just sitting there like, oh my God, is he in the back? And I'm like, no, that's her. So, that diversity is just, she's just phenomenal. And then when I would, see your post, and, I'm like, oh my God, he loves great music.
And so I would just hear certain nuances in her voice and the different ways that she emotes different feelings and all these things. And, through that and hearing that and studying that, my ears started to really develop. And the same thing with Aretha and Mavis Staples and James Brown with the way he arranged his music, and Stevie Wonder just being so masterful at what he does. So, yeah. At least that's what works for me, is to listening to music, and that trains my ear.
Beautiful. Oh, I love it. Everybody, you are watching Jazz Cats on Wjzz Cool TV. I am just in heaven right now, hanging with one of my babies, Lance Gully, and he, like I said, he's just such a beautiful person, just intelligent. Because I'm not gonna lie, a couple of days ago, I was getting a little intimidated. And I'm like, Dawn, why are you getting intimidated? But because I know the last time I had saw you, probably at Oakland University, maybe the concert that Ralph he performed. Oh God.
Yeah.
I think that may have been the last time I saw you.
Probably.
And we were talking, And you were like, is Ralph here? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, there's his bass right there on stage, the yellow bass. And I'm like, oh yeah, that is Ralph's bass. I mean, I've carried that thing before, you know, and, you know, just the quick conversation you and I had. And I'm like, wow, this dude is like this intellectual. But yeah, I was getting a little intimidated, but I'm like, Dawn, stop. I'm like, cut it out. It's gonna be fine. So it's fine. You know, like I said, I was, you know, probably up until yesterday. I'm like, okay, well, God, what kind of questions I'm gonna ask him? I'm like, Dawn, ask him questions you've always asked. You know, or just, you know, to have the conversation. But yeah, so now your music, CD coming, EP, what's that looking like?
Well, I'm writing a lot of songs, spending a lot of time writing down my feelings and, you know, experiences I've had, and working on that, working on getting a good collection of originals together to put onto an EP. And the goal was to be recording around this time, but I am an artist that moves according to the call of a higher source. And so there's some things that are out of my control. So right now my assignment is to just keep working and keep creating these original songs. And, you know, when it's time to be in the studio, I'll be in the studio. But I currently am raising money for it, because definitely by this time next year or the end of 2022, the EP will be out. But, you know, I have a idea in my head how I want it done, what I want it to sound like, and I know it's going to take some money, you know?
Right.
So.
So how do you, you know, because I love creatives, whether it's music or art, and how do you kind of get that out of your head onto paper, into a recording?
Yeah. You know, sometimes it starts off simply as something that comes to me, because the way I see my role as an artist, I am a healer and I'm just a vehicle for spirit. You know, I am aligned and it just comes to me and it comes through me. And it's my job to just feel it, translate it, and get it out. And so sometimes it's simply just something that's in my head.
Okay.
And then sometimes it starts off as maybe something I wrote down, a poem or something. And so I sit down and try to figure out what notes get that feeling across. And sometimes it's a bass groove or a piano riff, you know, because I'm a multi-instrumentalist. And that. So it comes in different ways. But when it comes down to it, I'm just a vehicle for spirit, you know, and so it comes through me, and I'm just thankful to have a gift where I can translate it and get it out.
Yes, and I'm thankful, you know, for that gift as well, because when I read, you know, the multi-instrumentalist, and I'm like, what does he not do? You know,
that's a few things.
But I'm seeing that, you know, with a lot of the, you know, other musicians, the younger ones, you know, I may have seen them only play bass, like Brandon Rose one day. Yeah. See him behind the drums. I'm like,
and he sings too.
You know, yes, he sings. I have a couple of his CDs. I'm a big fan. Yeah. You know, nephew Brandon, you know, and Brandon Williams was another one. You know, I never knew how talented, you know, he was, because I only knew Brandon as a drummer. You know, I didn't know him with these other instruments, and, you know, and so he and I were talking one day, and he was like, Dawn, he said, it takes me maybe 30 minutes to learn an instrument. You know, he said, give me an instrument that I haven't played. I'll go in a room, spend maybe 30 minutes on it. I can play it. And I'm like, I need you. I'm like, dude, I can't carry a tune or play anything, you know.
But that just goes down to knowing your gifts and knowing yourself, you know.
So, by you being a multi-instrumentalist, I guess, do you have a favorite instrument? Outside of your voice, do you have a favorite instrument?
Well, right now it's bass, you know, just because I've had amazing training on bass. And so I'm able to get around the instrument and express on the instrument at a higher level than I am the keys. You know, the keys is definitely something I'm working on now. But yeah, bass for sure. And I also love guitar, but I have yet to. Well, I've picked it up in the past, and I can get around it, but there's a lot more work I have to do on guitar. But I like guitar and bass a lot. I mean, I love string instruments because I feel like oftentimes, along with horn instruments, they get the closest to the human voice. And of course, the voice is my favorite instrument, and it's the first instrument. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I saw a couple of tunes on SoundCloud of yours. I just caught a couple of them. I didn't listen to them all the way. I will once I get back home. You know, so I'm like, Lance, EP, you know, because I'm just a huge, huge supporter, you know, of the music, you know, the arts, you know, especially music. And, you know, when I get a chance to get out and, you know, to see guys perform, you know, I'm there. And I keep telling all of my friends, like, y'all cannot sleep on these young cats. I'm like, please don't.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, because they're going to be passing the torch, you know, on to the next generation. And, you know, because I would go to, you know, Bert's on a Thursday for the jam session. And I think that's where I initially met Trinino. And, you know, and I would be sitting there, and then I would see this little skinny dude just in the corner, you know, like bouncing around. And I'm like, what is going on, you know? And so, and I'm thinking, okay, all this energy, I'm like, he better know how to play. And he would get up there and just blow the roof off. And, you know, and so I would just start seeing him, you know, we connected, and because he was on my show a few months back. And, you know, so that energy that the younger musicians are bringing, it's like giving me life, you know. And I'm like, I'll be 57 this year, and it's like, okay, I can still go. You know, I can still get out and support, you know, because it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to support. You know, buy his CD, come to a performance, share a performance on social media, like I've been, you know, doing your performance that's coming up on September 25th. And, you know, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm so excited.
You know,
really
I'm
excited.
looking forward to it. So what kind of music are we going to hear that day?
You know, you're going to hear some jazz standards. You're going to hear some soul standards, because I'm old school. I mean, I'm an old soul. You know, that's something I've learned recently, and have learned how to just simply accept, you know.
Yes. Don't fight it, because you're going to lose.
And so I try just, you know, not to conform and stay true to me. So there's going to be a lot of older soul tunes.
Nice.
Originals. I'm going to be doing some of my originals. I'm going to be doing 3 originals, and doing some, you know, singing and playing bass on them, and also looping with my loop pedal. So I'm trying, this is something new for me that I'm going to try.
Okay.
And so I've been working on that, and I'm looking forward to that. But, you know, jazz standards, soul standards, some blues. So yeah, all black music, you know. And my music, you know, I sat back and listened to my things, and got feedback from other people, and the tunes are all over the place. You know, there's some things that are more rock based, and people say, you know, Purple, Prince, you know, sounds like Prince, or I hear D'Angelo, or some people say, you know, classic 70s soul. And so I just, you know, music just comes out of me, and I just try to serve the song and the feeling instead of trying to stay in a box.
Right. So. And I mean, and that's not, to me, that's not what music is, or being creative. You cannot, you know, standardize it.
No.
You can't put that lid on it and force someone to just follow 1, 2, 3, 4. No, you can't do that. 1, 17, 90, 2000. You can't compartmentalize, you know, that. And so I'm really, you know, loving, you know, what I'm hearing, you know, that you are you. You're not trying to mimic or copy, you know, anyone. And I can't wait, you know, to hear the music, you know, because I like I said, I love all types of music, but when it's the creative is from the soul, from the heart, you know, you can feel it. You know, talked about that a little earlier. And, you know, just the feeling of music, you know, because I mean, there's some things I may hear that will almost move me to tears, you know, because it's so beautiful. And then I'll just kind of sit back and like, how did they come up with that? You know, how did they, you know, write this particular song? You know, what happened, you know, in their life that may have driven them, you know, to this particular type of song, you know, or music. So yeah, I cannot, you know, I can't wait to see what you got coming.
And oftentimes, you know, people ask, what kind of artist are you, or what do you consider yourself? And, you know, I would simply just say, so I'm a soul music artist, because it comes from the soul, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because that was another question when I was on another radio show, and I asked Brandon Williams, you know, how do you classify yourself? Like neo soul. He's like, I'm going to cut you off right there, Dawn.
Yeah,
like, you know, I'm just asking, you know, because what it sounds like to me may not necessarily be that category. So I have to ask, you know, just from an education standpoint. So if somebody sees, you know, something, you may be on my social media, you know, oh yeah, where's that such type of artist? And it's like, no, he's not a neo soul artist, you know, because it just runs a much larger gamut than that. And, you know, and again, kind of classifying, you know, a sound or something, that's boxing someone in. Because if you say, you know, I'm a jazz artist, okay, then that's all people are going to look for. From Lance is going to be jazz. You know, they're not going to understand, why is he playing neo soul? Why is he playing the blues? I thought he was a jazz artist. You know, but until, you know, you kind of learn the roots of where a lot of the music comes from, you know, and it branches off.
And that was one of the other things with bass. You know, taking that jazz bass career path, people just expected me to play jazz on the bass. You know, these standards and all this stuff. But I mean, I grew up on funk and soul and R&B, and I just wanted to always get all that stuff out. And so I remember one time I was taking a jazz bass solo, and I just started playing the disco line. And now I realize that it probably didn't fit, but that's what I wanted to do. You know? So the jazz police came up after, and they was like, you can't do that. You know? And I understood, you know, because we do have to serve the music and still carry the tradition of the ancestors and the elders. And I totally understand that. But that was one of the moments where I realized, you know, that I don't want to be boxed in. And I refuse to be, because that's saying, rejecting a part of me, you know.
And that's limiting, you know, what you can do should you decide to step out of that quote-unquote box in everything. So, no, I love that.
And it's also not serving your gift or the higher power in any way.
Exactly. You know? Oh, yes.
Because you're not using it to the fullest.
Yes, it's disrespecting, you know, the gift that God has put in all of us. So we're going to wrap up in about 2 minutes. Give me some music. Give me a song real quick.
Okay. Well, you said Wade in the Water earlier, so maybe I'll just sing that.
Yes. You can take us out with that.
Wade in the water. Wade in the water. Children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Woo! Yay! See, Lance, I did not know you had that.
That wasn't my key, but
it doesn't matter. It sounded amazing. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with one of my, I'm going to say it one more time, musical babies. Lance Gully, thank you so much. Check out his show coming up on September 25th.
Get your tickets.
Get your tickets now. I will share it on all of my social media platforms. So we've got to support the young musicians coming up. Support. When I post it on my page, if y'all don't mind, just share it to your pages as well. Even if you're not coming, just still share it, get the word out, so we can show up and show out. Lance, thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Peace out, everybody. I will see you next week. in studio, maybe with me next week, is going to be Nathan Mitchell. He's the vocalist and keyboardist with Najee. So he's going to be kicking it with me next week. And I will see you guys then. Peace out.
All right.